former booth host of the Motor Racing Network and the current general manager of Berlin Raceway up in Berlin, Michigan. Friend of the show. We've had him on before and really kicking back and enjoying the retirement and the local racing. It's the one and only Jeff Striegle on the phone tonight. Jeff, welcome back to the show. How are you tonight?
I am good, and it's good to be back with all of you as we get ready to kick off another season of racing. I guess we kicked it off a week ago, but we'll start in earnest this weekend here in Daytona.
So enjoying things, I know, as you have been. Kind of must have been fun to be a little bit of a race fan last season, and obviously your local track as well we'll talk about a little bit later on. But as a race fan, what were some of your thoughts last season on what you saw on the television?
Boy, where do you want to go with that one? You can have the good, the bad, the ugly. I mean, obviously, I think when you look back at the 2025 season, I was happy with what the product was on the track for the most part. I think NASCAR is always going to be in a situation where, they bring a car out, it's supposed to run Bristol or the short tracks, Martinsville, this, that, and the other thing, and it's a swing and a miss, and they have to go back to the drawing board, and they put the car on a 1.5-mile racetrack like a Kansas, a Homestead, a Charlotte, and all of a sudden they've got a great product. It wasn't but a couple years ago, everybody hated the 1.5-mile racetracks because there was no competition. Right now, I think the 1.5-mile racetracks are the best suited tracks for the current car that we're seeing racing, week in and week out. So it's always evolving. I like, the teams are good, the drivers are good, the sport's healthy right now. So hopefully, 2026 is just going to carry on.
So one of the big things, obviously, 500 kicks things off this weekend, but Dodge is back in the Truck Series, and a name like Tony Stewart is back in the Truck Series this weekend. You've got some big names in the Truck Series. What do you, as a fan, what do we expect to see from Dodge coming in, for the first time in over a decade, and a guy like Tony Stewart returning to the truck for the first time in, I want to say, 15, 20 years now?
Yeah, that was big. I was surprised. I think everybody was surprised to see Tony take on that opportunity. We all know that Tony will drive anything that has wheels on it. But I'll tell you, I was very surprised to see him come away from drag racing, come back to NASCAR, where it's been pretty public that, the split between NASCAR and Tony wasn't always the greatest thing in the world. I mean, Tony had some things that he thought NASCAR could have done better, and he was vocal about it. And NASCAR, in turn, would fire back at Tony. And I don't think they parted ways well, but yet at the same time, again, Tony wants to race. He has the opportunity to come back and do it. I'll tell you, I'm down here and I can go to whichever race I want to. In that Friday race, with the star-studded field that they have, and Tony being the biggest star of all, has got me to the point where it's like, that's one race that I'm not going to miss, because I want to see Tony Stewart back behind the wheel of a NASCAR vehicle, whether it's a truck or a car.
A fellow Michigan guy like yourself, Carson Hocevar, had a solid rookie season. What are your expectations for him in year two? I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna paraphrase. Maybe you saw it, maybe you didn't. Kenny Wallace put a post out and said, "Drivers, you are warned now of Carson Hocevar. You know that he's going to be aggressive. You know he doesn't care about you. You know he's going to be in the middle of controversy." And it read all negative right till the very end when he said, "And that's the kind of driver that I would want in my car." So what do we mean by that? We all saw it. He's always in the middle of something. But the one thing about Carson Hocevar, he is a gas man. He is wide open from the time he gets in that car for practice until the time the checkered flag flies. He's going to give you 110%. And I'm going to compare him to somebody, and you guys can agree or disagree, and we can talk about it, but I look at him as a bit of a young Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch did not care what you thought of Kyle Busch. We all know that. Well, what's special about Kyle Busch? He's a two-time champion. He's won, everything that you could possibly win, with the exception of the 500. And he's the guy that everybody would complain about. But if you had an open seat and you were going to go out and you could pick any driver you wanted to drive your car, you'd go to Kyle Busch, because he's a guy who refused to lose. And he would be mad if he did. And I think that, Carson Hocevar has a bit of that mentality in him. He is there for one reason, and that's to win races. And if he doesn't make a friend along the way, he really doesn't care, So he's just a fun guy to watch, and he's going to give you everything he's got.
So, Jeff, I'm going to bring you a little more forward. I want to talk about the fun guys that you have racing at your track in Michigan. But what made you want to take that step from, say, just doing the announcing part of it, the radio part of it, to actually being involved in the whole grassroots of racing?
That's a great question, and it's really it's an easy answer for me. I owned race cars at Berlin. I had been going there since I was 10 years old, so 5+ decades, 6 decades, whatever it is. And I was seeing less people in the grandstands. I was seeing less enthusiasm. I mean, Berlin has always been considered one of the top tracks in the nation. But as I was racing as a car owner, I was seeing what I thought, some of the polish come off of Berlin Raceway, and just felt like with the opportunity that I was given with NASCAR to go to tracks and see fans and maybe experience more of what they wanted, I thought, you know what, I'm going to give this a shot. We're going to focus on fans. We're going to focus on this. We're going to focus on that. And try to build it back up to where, I'm never going to be satisfied, because as long as there's an empty seat in that house, I'm not going to be satisfied. And that's, I don't know, that's either the good thing or the bad thing about me. It's probably both, is I'm not ever going to be satisfied with anything. There's always something we can do to improve on the experience for both the fan and the race car driver. And it's a challenge, and I love challenges. And again, that's a great question, and that's just one that I take very seriously. We get done with a race on a Saturday night, and I've got a pad of paper in my pocket of things that I noticed that we could be doing better, and that's what we try to do the following week.
So I've had some friends of mine who raced there recently, and I will tell you that not one of them's ever complained, and they always tell me that I need to get out there and race there, because it's an unbelievable experience, is what they said.
One of the things I always try to do, and you're probably talking about guys that either are running super modifieds. I'm actually having dinner with one of them tonight, Mike Ordway Jr.
Yep.
And his wife Kelsey are down here, and we're actually having dinner right now, or were. And you guys have some super late model teams that are up in the New England states and up there that have made the trip over. And
some of the sprint car guys too. Some of the sprint car guys, yeah. They all love the
Jake
place.
Trainer.
Yep.
And the Seymour group. I mean, those guys come down, and the one thing that I always try to do is to get around and make sure they know how much I appreciate the fact that they can race wherever they want to, and they don't have to race next Saturday night at Berlin. But if they do decide to race at Berlin, some of the guys, especially up in your, in your state, in your hometown and around there, those guys are traveling 14 to 16 hours just to get to that racetrack. It's one thing to come across town, the locals. That's one thing. But when somebody decides they want to go 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, 12 hours to come and race at Berlin Raceway, that's the kind of thing that's never lost on me. And I just try to make sure that I get around and make sure they know how much I appreciate and how much Berlin Raceway fans appreciate them putting Berlin Raceway on their schedule.
So, couple thoughts from you for what we could expect this season in 2026. What are you thinking?
Well, I kind of knew you were going to ask me that question, and here's something from the Cup level. We know that we've got the powerhouse teams, obviously Hendrick and Gibbs and Penske, just to name three.
All right, when are we going to finally see another team? And I just don't want another team. I want another 2 or 3 or 4 teams really step up. Back when we saw Trackhouse and 2311 and some of those teams coming in, we saw, Front Row Motorsports go through some changes. We saw, Brad Keselowski jump on board with Roush Fenway at the time. There was so much hype. It's like, man, we're going to see some of these teams really grow into being a full-time, how do I want to say this, competitive team to the Hendricks and the Penske's and the Gibbs. I still don't think we've seen that. That is something that I would really like to see is, whether we like 2311 or not, I want to see them win and be able to win on a week-in and week-out basis. Right now, we don't see that. We don't see that with Colleague. Those guys can go out and win races, but are they competitive every single weekend like we know Kyle Larson's going to do, like we know Denny Hamlin is going to do, like we know Joey Logano is going to do? How soon do we see some of these other teams, heavily supported, great driver lineups, have all the technical support in the world, take that next step to become one of NASCAR's super teams? That's what I'm looking forward to this year.
2 rapid-fire questions I got for you, speaking of Michigan and Michigan guys. Does Carson Hocevar win a race in 2026, do you think?
I think he does. Now, if you ask me which one, I don't know. He's going to be competitive. Yes, I think Carson Hocevar wins a race in 2026.
Does Brad Keselowski win the Daytona 500 or finally crack the Michigan curse in 2026?
He told me before that Michigan was the track that he wanted to win at more than any other track, including Daytona. There's no reason to think he can't, but I think we also have to respect the fact that every day he gets a little bit older and a little bit older and a little bit older, and typically that usually means you get a little bit slower. You may not push the envelope like a Carson Hocevar, young, brave, unafraid. He's going to do that. Is Brad going to do that? I think if we get down to the white flag, here on Sunday, and Brad is in a position to win that race, you're going to see Brad do everything in his power to do so. He'll throw caution to the wind. I want to see Brad get to victory lane one more time before he decides to hang up the helmet and become a full-time owner.
Tell us about the great things you've got going on at Berlin this summer in the 2026 season.
Well, I'm going to do so with the fact, you just mentioned some sprint car guys up in your area, some super modified guys in your area, and some super late guys in your area. We're going to see those guys come down on August 12 and June 10, our Money in the Bank Battle at Berlin race. Would love to see some fans bring the campers out to Berlin Raceway. It's perfect. We're right on the coast of Lake Michigan. Grand Haven is a beautiful place to camp, so you can turn it into a vacation. So we're going to see some super late guys from your part of the country come over for that. We have the Race for the Million, which is a 4-race sprint car deal. Berlin is one of those 4 tracks, and we're going to see some sprint car guys from your area. That is coming up in July. And then what else have we got? Super Modifieds, obviously. That's June 26 and June 27. Ordway will be there. I think Bobby Timmons is planning on coming to that race. He's from up in your area. A number of drivers that are up in your area will be making their way over to Berlin. So the schedule's out. Pick an opportunity. I'd love to see fans. And if we do, make sure when they come to the gate, they ask for me, because I'd love to come down and shake hands and introduce myself to somebody that's willing to travel that far just to come see a brand new track.
I said it last year when we had you on, but I definitely want to make a trip out there, and I've got a little bit of free time, so I think I'm going to try to make it out there. I've got these dates written down, Jeff, and we appreciate you joining us tonight.
If Jeff invites out the Nema Midgets, I'll bring a car. We'll go racing out there.
There we go.
Well, we're going to try to have a big midget show. We don't have one on the schedule for this year. And the guys that have some midgets up in your part of the country, really wanted to try to get a midget show. We worked hard to put it together. It didn't happen for 2026, but I do expect we'll see the All-American, I believe it's called the All-American Midget.
All-Star Pavement.
All-Star Midget Series, yep. I'm working with those guys. They've got my number, I've got theirs, and hopefully we can put together at least one good, big show in 2027.
Jeff, we appreciate the time. Get back to dinner. Enjoy Daytona this weekend, and we'll talk to you soon. We appreciate the time. Have fun this summer, and we'll catch up soon.
Yeah. Anytime, guys. I really do appreciate the opportunity to spend some time with you guys.
Jeff Striegle joining us here on Myles on Motorsports, presented by Chuck Auto Parts on 95.9 WATD.